Happy Thanksgiving in advance. If I get everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please remain standing for the invocation by Pastor Phil Horde of Union Bible College.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you so much as we head into this week, Thanksgiving week. We reflect upon the many blessings that each and every one of us have, blessings without number. Thank you for our city, for our city council, for our mayor and his team, and they are a blessing to all of us. And most importantly, thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ. Bless in this meeting, give guidance and direction on decisions that are made. May it all be for your glory. It's in Jesus' name, amen.
Sorry, I'm being distracted. My phone is exploding. Patrick Tam, Council President, would you like to run the meeting, please?
Yes, I would, because Lord knows what you may do. So, thanks, Mayor. Can we please note the presence of a quorum?
Kurt Wanninger.
Present.
John Dart.
Here.
Joe Deppner.
Here.
Noah Herron.
Here.
Chad Huff.
Here.
Victor McCarty.
Here.
Patrick Tam.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We have the minutes from the last meeting in front of us from November 10th. Can I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from October 27th?
Yes.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilor Waniger, seconded by Councilor Dart. May we see no other discussion? May we call the roll?
John Dart.
Yes.
Joe Deppner.
Yes.
Noah Herron.
Yes.
Chad Huff.
Yes.
Victor McCarty.
Yes.
Patrick Tam.
Yes.
Kurt Wanninger.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. We also have the minutes from the November 10th, 2025 meeting. We need a motion and a second.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from November 10th? Second.
We have a motion made by Councilor Waniger, seconded by Councilor Dart. Seeing no other discussion, may we call the roll?
Joe Deppner.
Yes.
Noah Herron.
Yes.
Chad Huff.
Yes.
Victor McCarty.
Yes.
Patrick Tam.
Yes.
Kurt Wanninger.
Yes.
John Dart.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. The next order of business is our approval of claims. Assuming everyone's had the opportunity to review those, need a motion and a second.
Make a motion to approve the claims as presented?
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Waniger, seconded by Councilor McCarty. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we call the roll?
Noah Herron.
Yes.
Chad Huff.
Yes.
Victor McCarty.
Yes.
Patrick Tam.
Yes.
Kurt Wanninger.
Yes.
John Dart.
Yes.
Joe Deppner.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. I know we have several residents that wish to address the council this evening. Just before we start that, I just want to remind folks, it's not a Q&A. It is 3 minutes, and we look for it. And if there's anything else that you'd like to talk about or send us, which on a couple of items we've been getting a lot of email from, which has been fantastic. But we welcome any and all comments at any time. But we do have, if you can introduce yourself, just for the record, and then Director Todd will call you up as well. Yeah, state your name and address will be the protocol.
So we currently have 4 cards. First name up is Richard Feldman.
Hi, my name is Richard Feldman, President, Reserve on South HOA, and a homeowner residing Sanders Farm Circle, Westfield, Indiana. We are 100% opposed to the proposed high-density townhome development proposed by David Weekley Homes, Sugarleaf PUD. The proposed development is completely out of character for this area. Between Cary and Union on 171st Street consists of only single-family homes, other than a city services building and one business setback that has been there for years that predates the development of Reserve on South and possibly other developments in the immediate area. The high-density townhome development that is being proposed will negatively impact property values for residents of the Reserve on South and other neighborhoods in the immediate area that I've spoken with. Other concerns, but not limited to, include 1, drainage issues. Many large footprints with significant asphalt will create sheeting of water, impermeable, and cause potential flooding. The majority of the land currently is undeveloped, allowing for natural permeable drainage. The Reserve on South has an engineered drainage system that is challenged at certain times. Currently, a retention pond exists to the north, and Reserve on South pond that flows into and goes across 171st Street. 2, traffic. The addition of 67 units will create significant traffic issues. 171st Street, South Street is a 2-lane street lined with homes and no opportunity for widening. 3, future Newby Park, expansion of Simon Moon. Both of these increase traffic to the immediate area. Special events such as educational programs, increased use, and the potential move of the farmers market to Newby Park adds additional traffic. 4, future of Westfield Municipal Building. Potential sale and relocation of the Westfield Municipal Building will create more density and more housing is built already in a constrained area. 5, privacy, noise, and lights. The backside of the high-density townhomes are designed with garages, access balconies overlooking the homes to the immediate west. The positioning and elevation look directly down on the homes and creates a direct negative impact. We thought the vision of Westfield was to be different than our neighbors in Carmel. I question the direction we're heading. It's our belief that citizens of Westfield, more broadly the citywide, need to do a deeper dive with research and discovery and achieve a gold or platinum standard for responsible development. We have communicated with the mayor. Some city council members actually returned my call. Others concerned residents in neighborhoods being negatively impacted by this, Oak Manor, Pheasant Run, etc. The residents of Westfield hope the common sense will drive appropriate decision-making of this board versus the consultants and developers with a focus of financial gain. We request you do what is right and vote against the high-density townhomes in the Sugarleaf PUD.
Arnie Macy.
Hi, I'm Arnie Macy. I reside directly behind the PUD, proposed PUD, at 17129 Sanders Farm Circle. I'm a Westfield resident. I've lived in Chatham. I've lived at 161st and Oak, there by the new roundabout, and then we moved into town. We walk frequently downtown. Appreciate the park, appreciate the, the great feeling that Westfield has. We're anxious to see a path along 171st because there's just a little spot there we have to walk in the grass, which we do with the dog. Really enjoy a lot of things that's being done with Westfield. However, it always hits hard when it comes close to home. And the rendering I received from David Winkley's attorneys, I'm a builder and developer myself, not of residential, but of self-storage, and the building's was about 40 feet tall. I understand it's not going to be quite that tall. Literally blocked the sun from our house. I was just informed that it was I was a bit of a hypocrite because I've got zoning cases in several places. I've had them recently in Westfield. But I don't know. When we do storage, we try to work with adjoining people a little bit and try to talk about buffers and something. And I was just shocked. I was out of town when I got the email with the tall building right directly. We would look at 5, 6 garages back of the condos without brick. And it's just, I've got trees that are trying to get tall enough. I was just told I was not very smart to buy a piece of ground that was next to a vacant piece. I understand that. I understand it all. But I lived in Carmel for 17 years, and I thought I was moving to Westfield because Westfield was Westfield, and I'm finding out that Westfield has got a lot of the same leanings as Carmel. That's okay. But please just care about the neighbors. Don't answer the phone, talk to the people, have meetings with us, not after this is all done, but during. And I think we'd all go a little bit farther. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Macy.
Jan Macy.
Hi, thank you. My name's Jan Macy. I also reside with my husband Arnie at 17129 Sanders Farm Circle. I think most of you know where it is. The neighborhood is a reserve on South, and if you guys are going, between here and the city center for, the city administrative building, you go right past where our home is. And as Arnie mentioned, we just moved there in December, and we've been thrilled because we love the walkability. And we really feel embraced by Westfield. And the park, the new businesses there, I've started going to the Pure Bar exercise, it's just terrific. I just was, like Arnie, shocked and speechless that behind us on, our area is between Cary Road and Union. It's not very big, and everything's one story. It's all, single family, a beautiful expanded park with Simon Moon. I think we're going to hear about later on in this meeting about the Newbie Park. I know that Westfield is making a big investment, and I'm very supportive of all that. I'm thrilled. I'm proud to be in Westfield. But I got to tell you, I just wonder what hit people over the head or something. I mean, these buildings are like so tall. If you drove down Cherry and saw those townhouses there that back right up to the Midland Trail, those look great. I mean, they're going there. These are as tall as that, and our house is right behind it. When Arnie said it's going to block the sun, it will block the sun right in our backyard. We have, our house is we've raised our kids, and, we're going down instead of downhill instead of uphill. But, it's a small yard, but it's very a lovely neighborhood. We're thrilled with it. We have some wonderful neighbors that we've met. We love being close to the town, but I just was shocked that we would be faced with having, I think, 42 multifamily units. I mean, we're not talking about, 42 single-family houses. We're talking about 42, like, high as you can be. And as a citizen, I think that's the reason that you guys, why we get a chance to talk. But please, it's zoned, I think, right now for houses. I'm all supportive of more houses or different houses or whatever. It's all good, but that many and a higher density in that little spot, it's not, they don't even have
Council
them
President, it's
proposed
been
up
3
to go
minutes.
by the trail. It's right by the street. I apologize if I talk too long, but thank you.
Quite all right. Thank you very much.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Scott Burton.
Good evening. I am Scott Burton. I recently moved to 17151 Andrew Court, also in the Reserve on South here in Westfield. My wife and I, longtime Carmel residents, and then bought some land up north. We wanted to get out of Carmel and bought some land up north and had 17 acres. And 8 kids, raised those, and we looked for, once they were out, we looked for some place where we wanted to be able to live the rest of our lives out with a walkable community, great neighbors, and believed in the vision that Westfield had, and really, really, really love what's going on in Westfield. I mean, built a home there and love our new neighbors. The HOA we have there is a bunch of great people and have really, really enjoyed our short time so far in Westfield and look forward to a long time in Westfield. With that said, I echo all of Richard and Arnie and Jan's comments already. I don't want to reiterate things they've already said. But overall, when you look at the design, the fit, and how it impacts the neighbors, obviously that needs to be taken into consideration. I don't really understand the need for that type of high density from what we're seeing in the marketplace in general. I mean, I've looked at the Midland South townhome development, the Pulte townhome development, and now Old Town multi-unit development with Springwater, and I looked on Zillow, and Springwater is currently sold 1 of 32 proposed multi-unit housing units there. It's been on the market for 225 days. They've been pushing sales there, and they've sold 1 unit. The townhomes, they've only on Union, they've only been marketing for a couple months, but they've only sold 2 of 88 units. I spoke with the sales manager there the other day, and he said he anticipated they were going to be on site for 3 years, doing construction for 3 years there, for 88 units there. And Midland South, which has been on the market now for 725 days on Zillow, and they sold 9 units out of 50 units. They started as high as $650,000 in price. They now are marketing at $489,000 in price, and have still only sold 9 units out of 50. And I know you guys did a job to develop to understand where it makes sense for this developer to producing these types of product or not. But the reality is it affects the quality of life of the people that, if it would get approved, if you're approving something that just doesn't have a demand. And from everything I've seen, I don't see it. If the numbers were different, if they were selling like hotcakes, I get it. We want to get people in here. It's a great, if it was in the right spot, I'd be 100% in favor of it. But number one, it's not in the right spot. It's not designed properly, and there's no demand for the product. So dumping this in somebody's backyard just for the sake of approving a product, and I said negatively impacting a number of people's lives for years and years to come, if they do get sold out and built, but even if they are during the construction phase, how long is it going to take for the market to absorb that? I think it's a factor we need to consider as well, because it will impact
Council President, it's been 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burton. Director Todd, is that all that have signed up at this time?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Our next order of business is our Director of Parks, from Director Chris McConnell for a presentation.
Evening, Mayor, councilors. First and foremost, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to go over what we as a Parks Department not only do, but how we've grown in the last 2 years since you guys voted to make us a standalone department. So with that said, I'll take the time to, like I said, go over what's going on and what we have to offer. First and foremost, let me go over my staff. They decided not to come tonight because, believe it or not, they have to work this weekend. We have the ice ribbon that we just opened up, so they'll be working some overtime. So they're at home watching, but they're not here tonight. So obviously there's myself. I am the director. Patrick Drews is my parks manager. He's responsible for day-to-day operations of most of our parks and trails. Ben Meyer is our landscape manager. He's responsible for all of our landscape contracts, because not only as a parks department do we maintain the parks, but we maintain all city green space. So any mowable right-of-way, any roundabouts, those fall under our purview. John Capes is our programs manager, and he brings some really fantastic programs and events to the community. Scott Thompson is my maintenance foreman. He and I have been together for 16 years, and he really is an incredibly valuable asset with his institutional knowledge, not only of what we do, but of the city itself. Myron Ethan Reynolds, he's our Grand Junction coordinator. He does everything that is Grand Junction and takes care of that site. And then my 2 laborers, Zach Kincaid and Mike Barbara Gallo, who are just absolutely wonderful men and do a wonderful job to take care of our parks and trails. So with that said, let's talk a little bit about our parks and trails. We have 14 different parks. The ones there on the left are our developed parks. Simon Moon obviously is a big one. Grand Junction Plaza, we know all about that. But we also have in our inventory 5 undeveloped sites, one of which we bought this year, which was the Mary Ann White property. And then finally, we are responsible for all of our multi-use trails here within the city of Westfield. And we do have 6 of those, including the Monon and the Midland Trail, that are very highly sought after trails. To give you an idea of what all that makes up, we have a total acreage of 212.79 acres. 119 of that is developed, but we still have 93.5 acres that is undeveloped, which leaves us a lot of really good opportunities to provide more recreation and green space with amenities for our city. I always have to plug this. You'll notice there in the middle, the national average for parkland per 1,000 residents is 10.4 acres per 1,000 residents. Currently, Westfield sits at 3.43 acres per 1,000 resident, with only 1.9 of those acres being developable, usable space. The rest, that 1.5 remainder the undeveloped is 1.9, the developed is 1.5. So we still have a long way to go to provide valuable green space and usable green space for our community. And then finally, on the far right side, you'll notice our trails. We've expanded. Originally, we were at about 14. We've now gone to 20 miles worth of trails, and those are multi-use trails, but we're also responsible for helping Public Works in maintaining all of the perimeter and connector trails that are throughout the city. And those, if I remember correctly, are well over 100 miles worth of trails. So we got a lot on our plate right now and a lot of things to take care of, and we're a real small and mighty team in order to do that. And this is just more proof in that. These are the amenities that we have to maintain and make sure are open 365 days a year. We have 5 playgrounds and 1 ADA playground. Freedom Trails Playground is completely ADA, made with decks and ramps, allowing all children of all ages to play. 10 shelters. We have a Sona Arch, which is a cool, unique play feature out of Europe. A splash pad. We just added a 9-acre lake and a kayak share program at Simon Moon. We do have 2 football fields, 3 pickleball courts. Believe it or not, we have 11 bridges in our system, and several other wonderful amenities. And it is our responsibility to make sure, again, that all of these things are available and taken care of and safe. One thing I will point out is Patrick Drews and myself are both certified playground safety inspectors, and we do have a very extensive playground safety inspection program, making sure that our playgrounds are safe and ready to be used at any given time. Programming is something that's relatively new for our department. We've really only been at this now for about 1.5 years, and John's done an absolutely fantastic job of providing a really broad spectrum of events and programs to our community. Some of the ones that I'd like to highlight, Farm to Glass, that's something unique for the city of Westfield. It highlights several of our local distillers and brewers and coffee vendors who have really honed their craft, and adults and in some cases children can come out and enjoy that and learn the science behind what it takes to do those things, as well as taste some of their products. Another one I'd really like to point out and highlight is our Voices from the Past program. That is a partnership program with the Historical Society, where we bring out every single second grade class in the city of Westfield to help them meet their Indiana history requirement. It's a lot of fun to participate in, and it's even more fun to watch. The other unique ones that we have on here are our Nature Century Walk and our Century of Fall Festival, which are new to this year, and those are partnership and cooperation programs with Mayor's Council on Disability, and they've been very popular as well. We also work with service groups. We just rolled out this year an Adopt a Road program. We also work with Hamilton County Invasive Partnerships to try and do our best to control invasive species here within the county. And then we do have park cleanup days as well with community groups, including a Wabash alumni group, several scout groups, amongst several others. We couldn't do our programming. John couldn't do it all by himself. So we have a lot of partners that we work with. This is just a small list of them. The biggest thing I'd like to point out, in 1.5 years, we were able to bring our programming offering up to 51 individual programs this year and serve over 2,300 residents. I know that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but one person doing that in 1.5 years from nothing is a pretty incredible feat, if you ask me. Some of the other things we do, we have partnered with the Community Development Program to bring the Neighborhood Vibrancy Grant to life this year. We've had 52 applicants and awarded 32 grants. Thanks to the council, we will be bringing that next year, back next year. We also manage the Hometown Heroes program. For those of you who don't know about the Hometown Heroes program, it provides landscape services or snow removal services to our men and women in the armed forces that are deployed. And while they're deployed overseas, we help to take care of those. I know it was something that was really important to Mayor when he was on council, and we've continued to make sure that that's a priority as we continue on. And we've served 6 men and women as they've been deployed this year. One of the other things that not very many people know that we do is we provide a logistical support for Westfield Welcome in all the events that they provide to the city. So this is a really brief overview of everything we do, and it shows that we provide about 1,000 hours of manpower so that their events are as successful as they can be. As I said at the beginning, we just opened our ice ribbon. Our ice ribbon will be open, excluding this Thursday, obviously, because it's Thanksgiving. Thursday through Saturday, through the holiday season and into the new year. We've also added a Christmas Eve and a New Year's Eve skate session this year, hoping to provide more opportunities to come out and skate. For those who don't know about our ice ribbon, it is not real ice. It is synthetic ice. It skates about 75 to 80% the same as real ice. It is much better for novice skaters, young skaters, hacks like me who are old and don't really skate that well anymore. But it is a unique opportunity, and it also was very cost effective when we decided to put that in the plaza. So it ended up saving the city quite a bit of money. And over the 24-25 season, we had almost 1,200 participants in that short skate season. As I mentioned at the beginning, we manage all of the landscape within the city. And as you notice, it's not a small task. The city has over 317 acres of property that needs to be mowed and manicured. We do not do this in-house. Our landscape manager is responsible for maintaining and overseeing the contracts. We have contracts with 2 different contractors currently. One that manages our high-profile and low-profile sites, as well as US 31, and then another that manages all of our native plantings and makes sure those are taken care of properly. We also, to assist community development as well as public works, Ben takes the time to review all private development landscape plans that come through the city, and he's done that 117 times this year. So we want to make sure in our review of those that they're meeting all of our standards and that they're planting things where appropriately and not overplanting. The other thing I'd like to mention that's not on the slide is we did enact this year a fee in lieu of program, and we call it our tree bank, where developers, if they couldn't fit all of the trees they were required to plant on their site, they could pay a fee into the bank, which would allow us to plant those trees elsewhere on public land in the community. And that program has already earned over $70,000 for us to use next year in tree planting. Finally, long-term construction and long-term planning. This year, we've completed 3 big projects. Number 1 is Simon Moon Phase 1. We completed that, and I'm going to toot my own horn here for a second. Simon Moon was awarded 3 different state awards. It was awarded in AFSMA's Stormwater Project of the Year, Ames Green Project of the Year, and then the Monumental Award Landscape category, it was first place. It's something that I'm incredibly proud of, and I'm incredibly proud to bring this kind of asset to the city of Westfield. Our other big project this year, we were able to landscape 6 new roundabouts, and we'll be able to do hopefully close to that many next year. And then we also are just in the process of completing our Westfield Arts Master Plan, which also won the Community Art Partner Award with Noblesville Creates. Projects that are in progress. Simon Moon Phase 2 broke ground a couple months ago, and it will include an outdoor education center, a brand new, beautiful playground, a 4-season shelter at the top of the sledding hill, as well as several additional boardwalks. We are in the early planning process of the Freedom Trail restroom and pickleball complex, and we've formed another partnership in relation to that project, which is the Westfield Pickleball Association has come to the table, and they will be rolling out a capital campaign to try and double the courts. So they are looking to raise a substantial amount of money to help alleviate some of the dollars of that construction from the park impact fee budget. And then projects that are in the planning, we have the Woods Family Park and Trailhead. We are currently working on Newby's Agri Park, specifically the parking lot, and working with David Weekly as well as Jeff Speck in their designs to make sure that hopefully we can get this done at a little bit faster of a pace. The Marianne White Master Plan we will work on this coming year, and then again in 2026 we have plenty of roundabout designs that we need to roll out, that some of which could include new art pieces possibly. I know that was a lot in a short period of time. I appreciate your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, comments this evening? Councilor McCarty?
Just want to thank you and the whole team, as always, for the wonderful job that you do, and I appreciate all the opportunities I have to work alongside you as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Congrats on the 3 awards for Simon Moon. That's exciting. Great recognition.
Thank you, sir.
Every time I go by, we continue to see new developments at the park, so appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All I can say is you do parks a lot better than I did it. Thank you.
Bar's low.
I'm glad you said that, Council President. I was thinking.
And maintaining the right-of-ways and the roundabouts, because love our street department, but that's not their bailiwick.
Understand
Yes.
completely.
On behalf of myself, thank you for the roundabouts that I was very much a pain in your ass for on landscaping. So I do appreciate that. When I do complain, I do thank you publicly.
Absolutely. And you are very welcome. It is something that I've wanted to accomplish for a long time, and Council, you and Mayor, you have made that something that we've been able to do.
You
So
also
it's greatly
anticipated
appreciated.
my dandelion comments too, so I appreciate that too.
You know,
so.
we take the good with the bad when it comes to
You do.
when it comes to outdoor landscaping. So thank you. Again, I appreciate the time.
Real quick though, on land acquisition, what's our plan on land acquisition as we're looking to really kind of close that gap in terms of increasing our land under parks?
I am doing my due diligence to find and identify land that might be good candidates for parks as best I can. It is a challenge given the cost of land in the city of Westfield. It's not inexpensive, and I know there are a lot of priorities that need to be handled as well. We were lucky enough to identify Marianne White and get it for a considerable percentage less than what they originally wanted it for. There are several other properties that our master plan has identified and that I've identified that are out west. That's where we're looking, more in the area of the township that isn't part of the city right now. There are several properties out there. So we are currently doing our due diligence to find and identify pieces that are available. And as they become available, I will bring them to Mayor and yours attention.
Thank you. The other pieces on playgrounds, I know that you work pretty hard and your department works pretty hard on playground accessibility for kids of all abilities, if you will, and sensory issues and those types of pieces. But for those of you, those in the public that are not aware of this, can you talk a little bit about that? Just kind of plug yourself, if you will.
Absolutely. So there are two schools of thought as far as playgrounds are concerned. One is a little bit older. It is what the school of thought that we built Freedom Trail Playground under, that it provided very unique features for children of all abilities, including those in wheelchairs, so they could be on those playgrounds. And we will continue to maintain Freedom Trail and replace it in that school of thought. As things have progressed, there is now a new school of thought in the playground development world. It's called Universal Design. And Universal Design is designing playgrounds so that children of all abilities can play together. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that there are ramps and decks. It does mean that there are transition points where kids can get from a wheelchair onto the play equipment. And that means there are other special features within that playground as well. Both approaches are very correct. They are just different ways to present and accomplish the same goal.
I appreciate that. I know your department, the mayor, as well as the council, really look forward to that, obviously with the Mayor's Disability Council and so forth. One last comment. I know my Kimballwick residents are very happy about adopting the road, so they informed me how much trash they already picked up. So thank you for starting that program as well.
Absolutely. Again,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you for the time, and I appreciate you guys and what you do for the Parks Department.
Thank you.
Just a couple of things, too, to give you guys some insight on what we're doing for future parks. First off, I agree with Chris. We're behind when it comes to parks, but I will add, we'd be remiss if we didn't say we have a 90-acre park in our city. We just don't own it. It's the county with Cool Creek. We also have a 96-acre park, McGregor Park, which is on our northern border. It is owned by the township, but certainly our residents take advantage of that. But I have been collaborating very closely with the township trustee. We know there's changes coming at the state level when it comes to township government. We don't know what it's going to look like long term, but Jamie Goetz Mills and I are already talking about how we can collaborate together, assuming that there's going to be probably some wholesale changes in Hamilton County. And she's looking very diligently at land in the township that's appropriate, but also the schools. The schools have been phenomenal about being proactive with land acquisition, better than the city ever has been. They're sitting on land right now in areas that probably don't make sense for future schools. They were planning possibly for 2 high schools. So they were looking through a very murky lens as they went through land acquisition. So they're sitting on land right now they probably don't need. And Dr. Ath and I have been talking about what we do with that land, whether the city comes in, possibly buys it for parks, whether they just sell it on the open market. There's still a lot of conversations going, but we are having conversations. We understand that we're behind, but like Chris said, getting land in the existing boundary of the city of Westfield is virtually impossible, quite frankly, with the price. So,
Yes, sir.
Chris, one more question. Have you exhausted the budget for the vibrancy program? And if so, how many neighborhoods were able to utilize the funds and improve their? Was that in there?
It is.
Oh, sorry.
And I will share this with council. There it is. So yes, the total dollars that were allocated for neighborhood vibrancy grant this year were completely expended. And we had 52 applicants, and we were able to award 32 grants through that project this year. It was incredibly well received, and I know there are neighborhoods that were in that difference who weren't awarded that are already working to figure out what their grant might look like for winter of 2026. So I know they're very interested, and they're very thankful for both council and mayor bringing that program to life.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Our next item of business this evening is a special presentation from Mr. Jeff Speck from Speck and Associates, introducing the master plan for the Simon Moon Newby area, but we have Janelle as well.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Janelle Fairman, Director of Economic Development. Jeff Speck is joining us online today, and he should be sharing his screen through Teams. So just want to do a brief introduction for him while he gets his screen up there for all of you guys to take a look at what he is going to be preparing, or what he has prepared for the city. So a little over a year ago, we engaged Jeff Speck out of Boston, who has planned a number of award-winning projects all over the country to really take a hard look at the way we are developing around Simon Moon and around the Newby Agri Park. And we really wanted to be sure that we're being thoughtful in the way that our long-term planning is providing an experience, not only for the people who are at the park, but people who can experience the park from their window. So, we see quite often in suburbia, whether it's in Indiana, other Midwest communities, that very often the park infrastructure is surrounded by single-family homes. So you have a lot of large lots that back up to a park, and you have 3, 10, a dozen homes that can see that view and enjoy that view on a regular basis. And it is an atmosphere that can be very enjoyable for a recreational park that feels more connected to nature, if you will. It's a little bit lower scale. But there's another experience that you would feel if you were in older communities. So, for example, Boston or Charleston or Savannah, where you have these parks that are surrounded by taller infrastructure. You may have townhomes. You may have 3 to 4 story buildings. You're looking at beautiful architecture, and that architecture does something to frame the park. And it also provides additional views for more residents to enjoy that park on a regular basis. It also provides more opportunity for people to interact with the park on the ground. So you now have people who are able to walk right out their door and walk around a lake. You have people who can take their dogs out for a walk and they're not walking down city streets. They're now enjoying something out in nature. And generally, it's a great opportunity to just get more people, again, connected to nature and connected to these amenities. So Jeff comes very highly regarded from, again, across the country. We've worked with him on a couple of projects, including our master plan of the Grand Park District. He and his team have been fantastic to work with. We also have had a number of people who have attended his walkability class that he runs out of Harvard. Anyway, without further ado, I'm gonna introduce Jeff here, and he will talk more about our proposed developments here at Newby and Simon Moon. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Janelle. Can I be heard?
Yes.
Great. Well, greetings, everyone. Mayor Willis, hello, and the other counselors and Janelle. Well, Chris is a hard act to follow, as well as Janelle. And you know, development's a little more controversial than parks, but I'll do my best to set this up. I've been told I have about 15 minutes, which I'll try to stick to. This larger plan that I'm presenting to you tonight is not presented for approval. It's really just a taste of where we've gotten so far. For your information, it's the first step in this process. My first opportunity to present it to you. We are Spec Dempsey. Spec & Associates became Spec Dempsey a couple years ago, and we were a small firm out of Boston, but I've done a lot of projects over the years, about 30 years. Most recently in Westfield, which had us spend some real time in your lovely town. We worked on the Grand Park District, but we've done projects, you know, coast to coast from Alabama and Colorado and another Alabama project, or Florida, Wisconsin, where I was last week. This is a Canadian project. You probably know the Monon Trail Boulevard, which Janelle was involved in, and we were too, having done the plan that led to this design. That I used to say that the downtown of Carmel was bipolar, and technically, from a planning perspective, it was. Now it really has one downtown, thanks to the boulevard that connects it all, and we're very proud of that work in Carmel. This is a project in South Carolina, and I'm only showing it perhaps to give some comfort to the folks who spoke earliest in this meeting. This project is called Ion. It's in Mount Pleasant. It was held up for 5 years by the neighbors who didn't want this next to them. Half those neighbors now live in the project, and they're very proud to be there. So we just have a record of working on projects that tend to end up having the highest real estate value and popularity in their region, for reasons that I hope are clear when I'm done with this presentation. But Janelle hit on it, which is that you know, we like public spaces and civic spaces that are well supervised, that people get to enjoy, that are well shaped by beautiful architecture, and that are walkable, and walkability is the focus of our practice. Now, getting into this project, I remembered a quote from Alex Garvin. Alex Garvin was someone I worked with. He was the dean of planning at Yale University for maybe 40 years. And he has this famous quote from his book, The American City. Urban planning should be defined as public action that will produce a sustained and widespread market reaction. That was his definition of planning, which is a strange way to define planning, because we think of it much more as being about what goes where and what the buildings look like and how the streets lay out. But the point here is that when you make an investment in something like a park or a plaza or a sports facility or just a beautiful street, as a city, what you want to see is that investment spurs a lot of private investment. That's certainly what happened with the Monon Corridor, which generated a ton of investment in Carmel. And that is, in some ways, the objective of the work that we're doing here. It's a fun contrast between Grand Park and the what we're calling the Newby district, or you know, the Park District. This is the hole in the donut. If you know Grand Park, which I'm guessing you all do, it's a tremendous park and athletic facility that is surrounding farm fields and a parking lot. And the plan for Grand Park was to fill in the hole and to you know, take advantage of that incredible amenity. This site is the opposite. The park is the donut itself. I should say the park is going in the middle of the donut. The park in some ways is the whole, and then the development that's surrounding it is the donut. So it's an inversion of the plan at Grand Park. And I only put one fade in each show, but the fade is useful that it shows the transition from what's there now to what's being proposed. And you see three separate neighborhoods here. You see the park as it is planned and its award-winning quality to be a real amenity that, as Janelle suggested, a lot of people should have access to. Not just the backs of single-family homes, perhaps across a fence, but streets and fronts and front doors and windows that supervise it, that give it safety, but that also give it a lot of people. And it's the people that makes it truly safe and gives it life. You'll notice a strategy here that I'll get into the individual neighborhoods in a second, but you notice a strategy here that's very much in keeping with traditional town planning, which is to make that edge public. So the typical approach of most developers when they have an asset or an amenity is to turn their backs to it and sell it to the houses that they can, make money off of. The traditional approach to making communities is not to privatize the asset, but to publicize the asset, to put a street or a path along the edge, and to make sure that it's as publicly available and accessible as possible. What that does actually is it, rather than absorbing the value of that asset in just a few lots, it brings the value into the neighborhoods deeply, so that every new home, every apartment within these properties is benefiting from that asset. So there's three separate neighborhoods we're going to go through. The first one we're going to look at, because it's the one that you're also going to be looking at, I believe, later this evening, is this one to the west that's being called the Sugarleaf District. It's the lowest density of the three. It's the furthest from the main amenity of the park, but it is up against this expansion of the park, which is already planned. Second, we're going to go to what we call the downtown Simon Moon area, which is imagined as a new little downtown, a new village center that would have shopping and mixed use and some significant density, enough in this plan at least to support a structured parking lot, as well as some large surface parking that's hidden behind these buildings. And then finally, there's kind of an intermediate neighborhood down here, which is all row houses, no single family houses like you see here to the left, but also no buildings taller than a 2 or 3 story row house in that area up against the park, so that all of the real mixed use activity is focused in this new little downtown, which is up here. So let's start on the western parcel, the Sugarleaf parcel, and you see it consists of 2 parts. Up against 171st Street is a slightly denser community of row houses lining a street here, and also facing towards, against the sidewalk, facing towards the street, which leads to the parking lot for this expansion of Simon Moon Park to its north. And then this Village Street becomes more of a country road and starts meandering here into a plan that was almost entirely designed around saving as many trees as possible. If you've been in this area, perhaps back here on the trail, you've noticed it's absolutely full of trees. We insisted on an extremely detailed tree survey to be completed before we did the planning work. You see each tree represented by its size in this plan. And these are single family houses that wind their way back to a pedestrian path that then connects it to the trail. So now zooming in just to the northern part, you have an interesting condition here, which is that there is the street that goes through, but most of the houses are served at their backs by what we call little hammerhead alleys or driveways, so that their fronts can be on pedestrian streets or pedestrian paths. So these houses are facing this way, these houses are facing this path, these houses are facing this path, et cetera. These houses are facing that path. This is a technique that we pioneered in a project called Rosemary Beach in Florida, where the houses sit on these pedestrian boardwalks that are really quite lovely. They're served in the back by alleys, so the fronts can look like this. And what you see here in the plan for Rosemary Beach is the pedestrian paths where the houses face, and then the hammerhead alleys that are behind them, pedestrian path, hammerhead alley. You see the same, this is what the hammerhead alley looks like, the garages back on the alley. And you can see the same technique of the hammerhead alleys in this plan with the houses on the pedestrian streets. So that's the northern part of the plan. The southern plan is made up of row houses, and you see deeper row houses and shallower row houses. We generally develop in our plans two types of row houses. You see the deeper lots and the shallower lots. This is a neighborhood of ours called Kentlands outside of Washington, D.C. And these are what the row houses look like from the street. They're 2 to 3 stories tall. They're traditional in their vocabulary. And you see two different types here. You see the row house with the rear patio and the garage on the alley, or the row houses where the garages tuck under. You see the cars tucking directly under the rear deck. Those are the shallower lot row houses. So you see deeper lot row houses here, shallower lot there. That's the type that is in the plan. And this combination of different types of housing, which is a little surprising in suburbia where there tend to be pods of just one type, that was something we were very proud of at Kentlands. And in fact, the developer's real estate consultants told him that you could never sell a row house near a mansion, and you could never sell a mansion near a row house, and that you could never sell a row house near an apartment, which is what you see above this garage. But this neighborhood actually sells better than anything else in its surrounding area because it feels like a village. And you have different rents these are rents from, 2007, but people like to be in a village atmosphere, and that's what you get when you mix different building types. So this is the plan as it's been developed by the applicant, who you'll be meeting later tonight. It has some slight changes from our plan that we don't need to get into, and we're still talking with them about that. Its development, but they've been largely faithful to the design that we created. So that's the first neighborhood. The second neighborhood is the main one to the north here. It's the downtown of the Simon Moon Park District. And you see a diagonal street heading through the center. You see a square on Main Street, potentially a roundabout here. We'd sure like to see one. We don't know if it's possible or likely, but we'd love to see a roundabout at the entry. You see a square with head-in parking. This is where the shopping would happen, and perhaps shopping would continue down the street all the way to the edge around the park. You see that this is served by a surface parking lot hidden in the middle of a block. And then you see a considerable more, what you see in orange are condominiums or apartments. They're buildings, they're larger buildings like the types that you see in Carmel, God forbid. And also there are row house lots on the edge. So these are row houses of the shallower kind. These are row houses of the deeper kind. And then you see a structured parking deck that allows the density, the 4 to 5 story type buildings that these represent. And we were asked, and we were very pleased. We think it's appropriate to put that sort of density against this tremendous amenity. You see more apartments here turning the corner. All the fronts are facing towards the park and really enjoying it and celebrating it. All the parking is hidden out of sight. This is a neighborhood that I came to love years ago in the Netherlands called Sant Anna der Muiden, where I discovered this idea of a square with a road that goes across it diagonally. So you come in on one corner of the square and then you angle across the square, and it makes for a really nice space. That is the concept behind a number of the squares in this plan, including this one when you enter. I wanted to point out the hidden parking lot. This is Celebration by Disney. You might know it. It's got a lovely main street. Notice these blocks surround the center with buildings, and the parking lots, the surface parking lots, are hidden out of sight in the middle. This is what the parking lot looks like, but you only see it when you're in it. This is what the streets look like because the parking is hidden. That's a technique we often use. And then these larger buildings that are lining the main boulevard and the cross streets are imagined as the larger buildings in Carmel that we see along the Monon corridor. And there's some 5-story, there's some 4-story, and some 3-story. There's some similar buildings you might know in the village of West Clay, which also hides the parking at the back and lines the street with buildings that look like this. This is the scale that we're recommending for this neighborhood. And then, of course, at the edges, there's the row houses that I already told you about that look like that. So here's a rendering now, and the arrow shows you how you're looking, but it's a rendering looking in and down the main street. And you see the 5-story condos and apartments that are surrounding the green that's split into two triangles by that diagonal road. You see it continuing down the main street. You see the row houses, the lower buildings down here to the side. You see more apartments looking out over the amenity. And here in the middle distance, you see the amenity. And then the southern neighborhood is visible. And with a beautiful, I'll get into this, but a beautiful facade terminating that view, that vista all the way down the main avenue across the water at some distance, but still visible. And then turning around now, looking back, we're on this bridge now that's being built in the middle of the water feature in the park. Looking back at the community, you see this edge of eyes on the street, friendly faces, public edge, really celebrating, enjoying, and creating a village core, a neighborhood center along this amenity. So it's an ambitious plan, but we think it's appropriate to the amenity itself. Then there's this axis I told you about that aims at this end of the building, of these two blocks. So looking at these two blocks, the idea was to create something that really celebrated that view. And the idea of these are just row houses. These are individual single-family row houses, but it makes sense to have a path through the block here and a path through the block there that can be celebrated with a portico. And so you see just a little arcade along the front. These are still private homes, but this is what we would suggest, what we would recommend the developer do to make this really special. And you see this is the passageway through the block. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 row houses, of which the fourth and the fifth are separated by that passageway behind the portico. So that's our architectural recommendation for that location. This neighborhood also has a diagonal street across a square that is off of 171st Street. You see it as, again, the deeper row house lots and shallower row house lots, a little bit extra parking hidden in the middle of this block. You see how it creates a friendly face and a front to Simon Moon Park, taking advantage of the existing entry road to become its loop road, which makes its edge against the park fully public. And then you see that there's a pedestrian street that crosses through the middle. So you have basically 4 blocks, right? 2 smaller ones, 2 larger ones, separated by a vehicular street, a pedestrian street, and surrounded by a ring road. The 2 different row house types that I talked about before. This is another project of ours and what they look like from the street. This is an example in the village of West Clay of some row houses that were built there. You may know it. And then this is a rendering of the southern square, which is just a residential square. There's nothing commercial here, but this is the view that you would get from 171st Street, where you see these row houses against the back and against the sides of the square, and then again 2 triangular greens framing the diagonal street that's taking you into the neighborhood. So those are the 3 parts of the neighborhood. This view again is looking south at this end, at these 2 porticos. And together we feel that that is a plan that takes full advantage and truly celebrates Simon Moon Park and is appropriate for the investment that you've made there. That is all I have to show you tonight. Again, this is just an informational presentation, but I certainly welcome any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions, comments this evening?
I've got a question. Hi, Jeff. This is John Dart, one of the city council members. The development that's immediate in front of us is Sugarleaf. And personally, I'm a big fan of I think these are being referred to as brownstones, because I've kind of been very vocal about offering more for-sale units than rental units. I think we need more for-sale product in the city versus rentals. But when you were developing and designing Sugarleaf, was there any consideration to making that section all single-family homes like you have in the back of the property? And the reason I'm asking that is I think those are going to be pretty special homes in a wooded area. And then when you see the rest of the development, where the city services building is today and on the north side, you've got a lot of different products. And I think there's opportunities to put these brownstones in those other areas. So I guess, was there consideration for just all single-family homes in Sugarleaf?
Well, these, in pretty much all of our projects, and my colleagues, my old firm of DPZ and I probably done about 100 of these. The row houses are almost always for sale. They're fee simple. They happen to touch their neighbor, but they're pretty big single-family homes that just happen to have a party wall. We designed this based on type and not on tenure, and it is possible that someone could rent a row house just like they could rent a single-family house on a large lot, but they're typically not rentals. They're typically private homes. The plan was motivated by a number of factors. One is that there are almost no trees on this front part of the lot. So the area where the larger, and I'll go back there, but the area where the larger lots are and the single family homes are, has lots of trees, right, in this area. And then the area down here did not have, I'll go to my plan, did not have many trees at all. So it made sense to have a denser development there and to plant a whole bunch of street trees as opposed to just weaving a road and dropping houses in the forest. Secondly, I really believe that society evolves when people who are different from each other get to live near each other, and it's not a healthy thing for us to segregate ourselves into pods that are uniform and homogeneous. So we really do try to create neighborhoods that are that have a variety of building types, so we can get a variety of people in them. People like to have their kids live in the same neighborhood. They like to have their grandparents live in the same neighborhood. Clearly, this is all intended to be part of a larger walkable district. And there is some, considerable connection between the different parts. So it isn't a shame if one part is more homogeneous, but we always try to have a variety of people in our neighborhoods. In our experience, as I suggested in the project in Kentlands that I showed you, the bringing people together at different price points actually creates more of a village feel. They used to call my firm, as a joke, they used to call us the village people because we'd come in and we would build communities that don't look like pods, but look like neighborhoods and look like villages. And when you have row houses next to mansions, next to normal single family houses with garage apartments renting affordably in the back, that's not only a socially an interesting, condition, but it's a nice look and it feels great. So that was our motivator for making this a little more diverse.
Hey, John, there's an economic piece to it too. I'll hold off and let Weekly present on Sugarloaf, but there's some drainage issues and some things that drove decision-making that we can talk about as well.
Okay.
Councilor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Deppner?
Yeah. Councilor Joe Deppner. Thanks for the presentation. And again, I'll probably address some of the issues I have with the Sugarleaf development with the developer since we're already to that process. But the one thing that I just totally don't understand is I think you heard our Parks Director earlier today speak that we are severely short in park space. And the third area there that you went through is assuming that we take down or raise the city services building, which is land that the city currently owns. Why would we want to put houses there if we're trying to expand park space?
Well, the brief for this exercise began with the idea that development would go there. So in all honesty, it isn't something that we were asked to question. That said, I think, this is from a planning perspective, from a best practices perspective, and a theoretical perspective about good planning, which is what we try to adhere to, having more homes and people giving more supervision and more bodies activity to the park is a positive thing. We are much more focused on the what parks contain and on the programming of parks than we are on the size of parks. The percentage of open space that, not that you shouldn't strive for more, but the percentage of open space that most suburban communities have in the US is well in excess of the percentage of open space that most traditional neighborhoods like Savannah and Charleston, or, Beacon Hill or Newburyport, or Santa Fe, or, the best neighborhoods in America that people get on airplanes to visit. They tend to not have that many parks, but the parks they have are well designed. And this park looks a lot, if you know the Boston Garden, the public garden in Boston, which is such an incredible space, this park looks a lot like that, and it's probably bigger. But what makes the public garden so great isn't just the duck boats and the Make Way for Ducklings sculpture that's in the garden, but the fact that it's surrounded by a lot of people who use it every day. So, even though it was kind of an underlying given in the design, I'm very excited about having more homes on both sides of this park and not just on one side of it.
And how many acres is that third section there? Do you know, or just estimate?
I knew, but I did not prepare myself fully for today, so I can't tell you quickly.
No worries.
Maybe Janelle knows.
I just think there's a disconnect there, that we're talking about how expensive park property potentially could be for the city to buy. And there's property right there in dead center of Westfield that the city currently already owns. And now we're talking about putting houses on it. Doesn't make sense to me, but.
Well, yeah, keep in mind, we're not giving that land. We're going to get money for the land to reinvest elsewhere. But the other piece to it too is when you look at the number of parks within a mile radius of Simon Moon is significant. We've got to think broader. It's great, all the parks and green space we have in downtown and at Simon Moon and Ace of Bales, but that hits such a limited number of our residents that's walkable or even accessible to these parks. We got to be thinking the whole township. And so I would argue more space in there doesn't change the landscape. We're already going to have a ton of green space and park in that area. We need to be thinking, how can we use our dollars and resources to expand to areas right now who don't have access? Most people would have to get in a car to access Simon Moon, not walk or bike or something along those lines. There are so many parks in this area. Creating a bigger park there, to me, we may disagree, but to me is not our goal. Our goal is to capitalize on what we have there and have more residents that can take advantage in a backyard or walkable setting to this park than just to make it bigger that nobody lives around. That's just my opinion.
It's roughly 9 acres, Joey.
Thank you. We can all disagree. That's what we do.
Quite often. Any other comments this evening?
I've got a few.
Counselor?
Yeah, I love the plan for downtown Westfield, not for this location. That's all I'm going to say.
Question, Jeff, this is Patrick Tam. As we're looking at some snow events here this week, and I'm sure our Public Works Department is sleeping a little bit this week because they're getting ready for later this week. The hammerhead alleys, how do we plow those when typically with cul-de-sacs, we're kind of able to, it's a little challenging, but we usually have an area that kind of dumps some snow. I'm really asking this for our Director of Public Works, but Jeff, do you have any comments on that as well?
You may have noticed that Rosemary Beach is in Florida. So.
Yeah, I recently was there. I've been there for about 20 years, so yeah, I'm very familiar with that.
And Jonathan, can you address the 11 road cuts?
Sure.
So let me, but
go ahead.
But yeah, and I think that's the sort of thing that we tend to solve more at the detail level. And certainly you're going to want David Weekly Homes to work on that and come up with a plowing plan. There's certainly lots of spaces around the alleys that aren't garage doors where the snow can be pushed into, but that's something that I imagine the developer is thinking about.
The only thing I'd add is that certainly, yeah, that is a detail that we will work through, but as we continue to develop in Westfield, it is going to necessitate the need for some new equipment in the street department as we develop and redevelop the downtown. So more than just our traditional plows, but potentially smaller skid steers, things that urbanized areas utilize to remove snow, especially like in the Northeast, we'll have to look into and would potentially be utilizing in this neighborhood.
Hey, John, while you're up there, what is the plan for 171st Street? It's one thing having Sugarleaf there, but then this proposed other development where the city services building is at. Can you share what that long-term plan looks like?
Yeah, we have no intention of widening 171st. Certainly, I think it remains 2 lanes. I think we would look at a small roundabout at 171st and Oak just to help kind of improve that node. And then on the west side at 171st and Union, looking at potentially a change at the intersection there. That's a little bit undefined, but certainly 171st and Oak, we would look at a small roundabout in the future potentially to help move some of that traffic through. It's always a balance. You want to make sure you keep speeds low and walkability high. So sometimes traffic efficiency doesn't always jive with that, but it's something we try to balance in Public Works.
And Jonathan, with the 11 road cuts, I mean, I come in and out of Public Works all the time as well as you do, and how hard it is already to pull out of there at this time. So I can't imagine 11 road cuts and people trying to get in and out all the time.
Yeah, I think we certainly want to look at the traffic generation, but like I said, 171st and Oak, roundabout, take a look at the road cuts from there.
Any other questions, comments this evening for Mr. Speck? Jeff, thank you, and thank you for creating a lot of neighborhoods I visit on vacation as well. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And hey, thank you all for your time tonight and for letting me participate remotely. And I look forward to moving forward with this plan.
Moving on to old business this evening is ordinance 2570, which is the Common Council of the City of Westfield, Indiana, authorizing the vacating of a public way or public place pursuant to Indiana Code 67312. This evening we have a presentation. I think we're going to have Director Nail do this evening.
Yeah, for the record, John Nail, Director of Public Works. Mr. Pierce would normally be presenting, but he is at his daughter's dance recital, which is much more important than this particular
We would
item.
agree.
Yeah, so I'm covering for him. I know we presented this already. Essentially, this is a vacation of right-of-way over at State Road 32 and Casey Road. The vacation would vacate an existing right-of-way north of the future tournament trail, but south of Casey Acres on Casey Road. Several years ago, we terminated this connection when we did the ditch road realignment project and essentially was not necessary and was a safety concern. So this existing roadway gets essentially no traffic. It is not part of the plan for the developer. And then additionally, I know there's some questions about utilities. There are overhead electric lines east of this right-of-way in its own dedicated easement. There's also a sanitary sewer west of this existing right-of-way, also in a dedicated easement. There are no other utilities that we are aware of within the right-of-way itself. I know that was Councilor Waniger had a question about that previously. Happy to answer any questions you may have, though, on this item.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Nail this evening? We need to conduct a public hearing this evening. We're going to open up the public hearing at 8:13 p.m. We're going to go ahead and close the public hearing at 8:13 p.m. as well. This item is eligible for adoption this evening. Need a motion and a second.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2570 for vacation of public right-of-way.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilor Waniger, second by Councilor McCarty. Seeing no other conversation, may we call the roll?
Noah Herron,
Yes.
Chad Huff,
Yes.
Victor McCarty,
Yes.
Patrick Tam,
Yes.
Kurt Wanninger,
Yes.
John Dart,
Yes.
Yes.
Joe Deppner. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Next order of business is ordinance 2583, which is Common Council of the City of Westfield, Indiana, authorizing and approving appropriations from the operating balance of the General Fund, Fire Fund, Park Impact Fund, the Law Enforcement Fund, Police Donation Fund, Police Vehicle Fund, the Communication Program Fund, the F&E Programming and Events Fund, Road Impact Fund. This evening, once again, is our Deputy Mayor, Danielle Carey-Toll.
Yes, for the record, Danielle Carey-Toll in front of you tonight to have you consider adoption consideration for the additional appropriation ordinance. This has 9 different impact fees in non-reverting fund, from everything from Simon Moon Project Phase 2 payments to Park Street Streetscape, that's such a tongue twister every time, contract, rifle replacement for the police department, canine vests for the donations for the police department, replacement vehicle fund for a vehicle that was totaled earlier this year, community events projects, throughout facilities and communications, and then also right-of-way acquisition. There's also 5 general fund items in here and 1 fire fund. You will have to have a public hearing tonight. If you have any other questions, please let me know.
We will open up the public hearing this evening at 8:15 p.m. Chief Gaylor kind of motioned like he was buying a horse back there in an auction, but we're going to close the public. He did catch my attention. We'll close the public hearing at 8:16 this evening. Any questions, comments from the council?
I'll make one comment. So I was obviously pretty vocal the last council meeting about the appropriations, the request for appropriations, and I think I can speak for the rest of the council, is that it's not uncommon to appropriate additional funds at the end of a year because there are unforeseen expenses that happen. And, you know, the city operates oftentimes like a business, and that happens in business as well. But I would ask that we be more proactive in 2026 to keep the council and the finance committee. There are 3 council members on the finance committee, and we meet every month. Keep us up to date on what the expected or estimated appropriations may be during the year. That's not always possible, but I think there's a likelihood that we could understand well in advance what the potential appropriations might be. For example, one example was the extension of Penn Street. We knew that much earlier in the year, and it's now come to us in November. So I think John Nail and his team could have come to us in June or July and said, hey, this is going through, we need to have these dollars appropriated. So all I'm asking is that we be more proactive in our communication, and we appropriate, if possible, on a quarterly basis. Not always possible, but if we can do that, that would be much appreciated, and I think agreed by the council members.
And just, I know, John, you and I talked, but for the masses as a whole, I wasn't here for the last meeting. If you remember our first year, we were coming to you guys every month with appropriations, and you guys asked that we not do that. We were under the impression, right or wrong, we were under the impression that we'd bring it to you at the end of the year for one big appropriation. So yeah, we were sitting on this stuff. It wasn't, we weren't hiding it, or we were, you know, waiting until that day we had to bring it here and not looking forward to it. We just were under the impression that's what you guys wanted. You just tell us how you want it, and we're happy to comply. If you want it monthly, you want it quarterly. Again, but like you and I talked, the only thing I'll caution you on is sometimes at the end of the year, we have available funds left over that we don't have to appropriate. So sometimes just sitting on it till the very end is the right thing to do, because if, you know, for example, if John had an extra $300,000 in his account that we didn't spend where he saved money on road projects, we could have used that for the Ambrose project. You can certainly appropriate that money in June, but then we may be at the end of the year not needing, and then we just overfunded a line item we didn't have to. But again, we're happy to do whatever you guys want. Just give us guidance, and we'll comply. So,
yeah, to that account, to talk about what Councilor Dart talked about. Actually, we kind of at the last meeting talked about just doing quarterly, which I know Danielle's shaking her head. So, and you, Danielle, also acknowledged that we could do that quarterly. We do appreciate, though, as you correctly state, sometimes there's funds. I mean, we're using road impact funds, fund dollars for some of these projects as well, which isn't necessarily new money. We're just appropriating dollars that are already existing in those funds. So, which we do appreciate, but I think the overwhelming, when we did it publicly, kind of unknowingly for quarterly, and we would appreciate continue to work well. So we need a motion and a second.
You need to have a public hearing first, please.
I thought we did the public hearing because Chief Gaylor was
Was he
acting like
raising
he was
his
buying
hand?
horses.
Is that it? He distracted me in the back, sorry.
I do take copious notes up here. It's okay. Presenting to us, you've never done it before, so I mean, it's the first time. Do we need a motion and a second?
Make a motion to approve ordinance 25-83 for authorization of additional appropriations.
Second.
We have a motion made by Counselor Waniger, seconded by Counselor Dart. Seeing no other discussion, may we call the roll?
Chad Huff,
Yes.
Victor McCarty,
Yes.
Patrick Tam,
Yes.
Kurt Wanninger,
Yes.
John Dart,
Yes.
Joe Deppner,
Yes.
Noah Herron.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to new business this evening. For those of you in the audience this evening, these are all ordinances, so they're all first readings or introductions. So we won't be taking official action on these items today. But we will start, though, with Ordinance 2585, which is approving taxable economic development lease rental revenue bond Series 2026, form of a lease agreement and form of loan agreement for the Park and Poplar project. With us this evening from the law firm of Barnes & Thornburg is Mr. Meeks. Dustin.
Good evening, President Tam and members of the City Council. Dustin Meeks, Barnes & Thornburg, and thank you for the introduction. So the ordinance that is being introduced tonight, Ordinance 2585, approves an up to $19 million lease rental revenue or economic development revenue bond financing, which will be used by the city to facilitate the construction of a public parking garage incident to a much larger mixed-use development at the corner of Westfield Boulevard and Poplar along the Midland Trace Trail here kind of in the downtown area of Westfield. The parking garage is going to be maintained by the developer for its life, replaced and repaired and maintained, and to shift that long-term cost of the garage being sort of publicly available but privately maintained. The agreement that the city made with the developer was that the city would bring its financial muscle into helping to get that parking garage financed. So the bonds, which will be economic development revenue bonds of the city, are backed by tax increment revenues and then potentially a taxpayer payment guarantee by the developer, and then to make sure that the city is able to get the best possible interest rate on the financing, because ultimately these bonds are going to go to the market and be sold to bring money into the project. There's what we call a property tax backup, which is what that means is that we have a reasonable expectation that the revenue sources that we've identified for the project more than 125% cover the debt service. But under Indiana law, we're permitted to tell the bond market that in the event that our more than 125% expectation was not correct, that the city would be willing to contribute property taxes to make sure debt service gets paid. And that greatly reduces the cost of borrowing, allows you to get the project done much more efficiently for the taxpayers. And this parking garage will allow you to bring what is a really quite significant investment into downtown Westfield. I think it's $123 million of total investment surrounding the garage. And the city's contribution is just to the garage. The rest of it is private development. Sorry, the only other thing I'd say is that, I know I'm talking a lot, the ordinance approves 3 financing documents, a loan agreement, a lease agreement, and a trust indenture, which just make the mechanics of the financing work. And happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Meeks. Any questions? This is effectively effectuating our previous agreement with Park and Poplar. Janelle?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I want to add one item on this. Dustin did a great job covering everything about how this all works, but there's one detail I wanted to bring to everyone's attention, which is the amount of this bond. The total amount, which could be more than one bond. We have oversized this by the amount of the ready dollars that we're expected to receive for this project. We currently are still in a process with the IEDC where we have a pre-commitment letter from the IEDC, but we do not have an actual written grant agreement in our hand. So we currently do not know what the repayment schedule will be from the IEDC. If in the event that we are required to make payments on the garage for money that we would get then reimbursed by IDC, we just want to make sure that we have enough funding available in the event that we would have to issue that second ban or bond in order to pay for the parking garage.
So would a potential delay in the ready grant agreement delay our bond closing as well?
No, No, it would not delay the closing. This would be set up so that we would issue our initial bond for the amount that we expect that we would need for the project. But in the event that we would need to close on additional financing, it is already pre-approved so that our project is fully funded. We don't expect that we would have to close on that second bond.
Any questions here this evening? Again, this is just an introduction this evening. Thank you to Dustin. Thank you, Janelle. The next item of business is ordinance 2580, which is Sugarleaf PUD. We'll have a brief introduction by Lauren Gillingham-Teague.
Thank you. This will be a very brief introduction. I did not expect Jeff Speck to cover Sugarleaf as thoroughly as he did. For the record, Lauren Gillingham-Teague with the Community Development Department. Item before you this evening is the introduction of the Sugarleaf Plan Unit Development District. Let me scroll down to a map. All right. Subject real estate is roughly 10.3 acres in size, located on the northwest side of the intersection of East South Street, occasionally known as 171st Street, and Oak Road, as shown on the screen. Most notably, it is directly west of the Newbie parcel and ties into the plan presented just earlier in the agenda. As proposed, the site would be divided into two areas, townhome product on the south of the site, and a number of single-family detached lots to the north. Homes in both areas will be accessed through a network of public streets as well as private shared drives and alleys, for which alternative cross-sections are provided at the end of the PUD ordinance. The petitioner is here this evening, plans to provide a presentation. We are both available for questions should any arise. Also, a public hearing for this item is scheduled for the December 1st APC, and a neighborhood meeting will be held tomorrow evening. I believe you guys have all received invitations to that if you'd like to attend. Thanks.
Thank you for that introduction, Lauren. For the record, my name is John Dabashewitz, son of a land use professional with the law firm of Nelson and Frankenberger. We represent the petitioner, David Weekly Homes. Present tonight is Lindsay Phipps and David Ellis on behalf of the applicant, as well as Jim Schooner, an attorney with our office. The matter before you this evening is the proposed Sugarleaf PUD. And by way of general background, Sugarleaf occupies real estate that is currently zoned per the terms of the Sanders Glen PUD. And we believe it's always important to review what the status quo is, what's the existing zoning, what's permitted by right today, so we know where we're going from and to as a proposal. Approved in 2021, the current Sanders Glen zoning permits the development of 42 multifamily attached for-rent dwellings and 13 single-family homes on an area which does not include the current business which exists along 171st Street. So it's only those acres that is adjacent to the business that Sanders Glen occupies. The new proposal would include both the Sanders Glen PUD as well as the existing business property which exists along that edge. The Sugarleaf plan, as proposed by David Weekly Homes, is in support of the master plan for Simon Moon and the Newbie area presented earlier this evening. I was wondering, arriving tonight, whether we'd have to explain why is David Weekly here and why does David Weekly have a proposal that we're going to share with you this evening. And I think Jeff Speck, in his interaction with the city, has explained that in detail. But additionally, Sugarleaf represents a for-sale residential transition rather than the multifamily for-rent which exists today that will expand residential diversity in the area and preserve more of the existing trees. You'll see in a moment when we review that area of the plan that the existing status quo, if you will, of the Sanders Glen PUD does not do as much as the proposal does to preserve existing trees in that area to the north. I won't belabor this. We've heard about this earlier today. The site is 10.7 acres in area. It's on the north side of 171st Street. The subdivisions to our west include the Reserve on South and Pheasant Run. And then to the south, immediately to the south, is the Pines of Westfield, and south and east generally is Oak Manor on the south side of 171st. As we zoom in here, you see those areas of trees, and one of the questions was, do we have as much tree cover in the area to the south that we do to the north? And the answer is no, there's significantly less tree cover.
in the area south. Of course, the property that exists today with the business is located here where there is not tree preservation. This is the area where the townhomes will be constructed on the south end, and as you work north, you have the area that single-family would be constructed, detached homes, and then the existing Midland Trail, which will be preserved in its location that it's at today. This is the new the plan that was presented earlier this evening from Sugarleaf. This is a plan that we've received regarding plans that the Parks Department has for the Agri Park and Farmers Market. One of the items that was discussed earlier was questions about access. We would have one rather than two cuts onto the subject parcel and then share a street access or driveway access adjacent and on this park property with the farmers market building. So it's reducing the number of cuts that are proposed along that frontage, which I understand would be an advantage in the minds of some who spoke earlier. The site plan itself and the purpose of tonight's request for the zoning change is to permit 42 for-sale townhomes, including rental restrictions, where today there are no rental restrictions, and in fact, 42 multifamily dwellings for rent are permitted by right, as well as 25 single-family detached homes, as well as the removal of the existing business which currently occupies part of the real estate that I outlined earlier. Access will be from two locations on 171st Street. That's the one driveway cut you see here with a public street, and the other access that you see here in gray along and adjacent to and on the park property shared with the Agri Park. The townhome area is illustrated in red. The single-family homes are represented by the brown rectangles to the north of the townhomes. Those aren't the shapes of the proposed homes, but they represent the application of 25 single-family dwellings on the real estate. Therefore, the total number of homes would be 12 more than the current zoning, which does not include the business parcel. So we're asking for 12 additional homes and the removal of the existing business parcel. So we don't believe from a traffic standpoint that there's less or more than what's authorized today. But in all likelihood, the same level of traffic. The Midland Trail locations preserved to the north end of the site and additional pedestrian paths, which will provide connectivity between Sugarleaf, Simon Moon, and the Midland Trail and Agri Park are represented by the narrower gray lines on the plan. This is a tree preservation plan. I believe Mr. Speck noted that they had a tree inventory done. The black circles represent that tree inventory, which was done in the single-family space. Single-family homes will be designed on a lot-by-lot basis and reviewed for tree preservation criteria by the Department of Community Development when building permits are submitted to assure compliance with the tree preservation requirements. So this will be one-off houses on lots that will ultimately be outlined, and trees will be identified, those existing trees on the plan, and the home designs will work around the existing trees to the extent required by the tree preservation criteria. The image on display now is a street-level perspective of the townhome design. This would be from 171st Street. Again, the townhomes will be located along 171st, and tree preservation and single-family development, single-family detached homes rather, would take place on the north. This illustration represents 4 single-family attached homes. It's not multifamily, it's attached single-family. It's all for sale, fee simple dwellings, and they're sold to individual buyers, and there will be rental restrictions similar to what the council has seen over the past couple of years, which are applied to other neighborhoods where rental restrictions were a request. This represents a side angle which includes the side and rear elevation of the townhome dwellings. And this is a representation of the elevations, the side, front, and rear elevations of the proposed townhomes. As I indicated, these homes will be one-off designs on individual lots. We have some images here to share with you which represent the character and quality of single-family home construction for the area to the north. These are not the homes that would be constructed on those lots. They would be designed by the home builders, as I described earlier. As noted, the homes will be designed on a lot-by-lot basis, and tree preservation is a critical component of this design, and standards are in the ordinance regarding tree preservation. The pictures don't provide the design character, the pictures provide the design character and quality of construction. In conclusion, as indicated by staff, we will be in front of the Plan Commission for a public hearing on December 1st. And we have a neighborhood meeting scheduled tomorrow evening, starting at 6:30 at the Westfield Public Library. I'm hopeful we'll present this same information tomorrow night. I think it'll add context to the discussion about seeing a lot of information floating back and forth on social media. We don't use that platform or those platforms to share information with the public. We share it at public meetings and meetings with the public. And I know that Mr. McCarty had shared ordinances, I think with a few folks online, in the hopes of informing the discussion, if you will, about what's the status quo and what's being requested in lieu of the status quo on this particular piece of real estate. So with that, I'll conclude. Would be glad to receive comments, questions that the council has, either now or, of course, as we move through the review process. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Questions from councilors? Councilor Depner?
I was going to ask, what's the maximum height of the townhomes on the western border?
The height of the townhomes are all 4 stories in height. As measured by ordinance, they're approximately 45 feet in height. That's the midpoint of the roof line. So you have, the downstairs, if you will, is where the garages sit behind. And it's
First 4-story then, and where else do we have 4-story in Westfield? 4-story multifamily and/or
well, this is, again, it's for sale, fee simple, attached single-family homes. Multifamily isn't a designation we're seeking.
Well, but
okay. Multifamily is existing today on the real estate, but we're not seeking that designation to be applicable. It's not my understanding that there's any other true 4-story.
Pulte has a fake 4-story on Union, and it's only 3.5 stories.
Yeah, those are 3-story. Yeah.
But if I could explain this, sorry not to cut you off, John, but we come back to this. So the whole strategy around this is, if we want to preserve all these trees, which to me was important, I didn't want another Lantern Commons where we came in here and we just decimate the woods up to the Midland Trace Trail and we pack in a bunch of homes like what's currently approved in this area. Drainage is going to be incredibly challenging on this site, and I think a few residents have already brought it up. The 4-story concept would allow us to TIF that on a commercial scale and generate revenue to do underground retention of the water that would allow us to save trees, basically. Otherwise, you're talking leveling trees, creating retention ponds, and all the things you traditionally see. The plan is to use the property to the east, the city park, and that's where the water would be. I believe, unless something's changed, that's where the water would be stored. But that TIF revenue, because that's incredibly expensive to have underground detention of water. So we were going to use that TIF created to pay for that, to keep the water, to get it off of the property so we didn't have to take more trees down. Certainly, we can talk if you want to reduce it down to 3 stories. We can still TIF it, but now it's a residential TIF, and it's a whole different ballgame. Still would generate some revenue for us to do that. But we're asking the builders to do some things that don't pencil to save trees. And I guess that's the $1 million question. How important are the trees?
Yeah, I mean, with knowing detention, you can still save the trees and have detention. You can do off-site, do additional compensation storage off-site, and there's plenty of land in the parkland where you can create additional water features and things like those. John, if you could go back to the back view of that house that'll be facing the reserve at south. So that's what the existing houses would see. That's what their view would be.
Not this direct. Those homes are positioned to the west. We've prepared a sight line that we'll have available in the coming days to show exactly what that'll look like. But currently there's an existing fence between those homes and the existing business to the.
How far from that fence to that garage or to the building face?
Approximately 30 feet.
John, I think the concern with the fence is not a professionally designed or very good-looking fence, and it does block today the building, the commercial building, because that's not a very tall building. It will not, that fence that is there today will not block a 4-story building. I just want to be clear on that.
And I apologize if I represented that it would block the view of the building. It'll block the view
But
of
that's
the
the,
garage.
but that's the view. The
There's
question
lots
is.
of garage doors facing that side, and it'll block the view of the garage doors.
Okay.
And typically, that's a concern that we hear about headlights, multiple garage doors, and not more attractive architecture.
Any other questions, comments this evening?
I mean, I would just like to see a better transition. Putting 4-story next to the residential there is a no-go for me. As I stated with you earlier when we had a meeting. Also, I don't love the townhomes being so close to the road. I understand why we do it in other areas, but here it doesn't make sense. I think more green space, pushing it back farther, being even with some of the entrance to the other residential to the west would make more sense. And those are a couple of the main changes I would like to see on top of some other comments being made tonight.
And I would just make some comments, not necessarily questions, is this looks like two different communities that we've somehow tried to combine together that have nothing to do with each other whatsoever. I like the concept of the single family in the back and the tree preservation, but I just can't get on board with 4-story townhomes to say that's unique architecture, what somebody would look at. I don't think anybody wants to look at that. That's just my opinion, whether it's 4 stories or 2 stories. I don't like the idea that we're trying to add density to this area. I don't think it's the right fit. This has been a very quiet, tree-filled road ever since I've lived here since 1993. We have no plans on widening any of the roads around here. As Councilor Herron indicated, I don't know why we're putting townhomes butting up to the road when this is not the area. That seems like this southern part of this seems like a better fit for the downtown area. We've already have some similar to this going on Union. That seems to be the area where this part of this development fits. I just don't like the idea of this southern part of this, and that's all I'll say.
I'll just add to those comments as well. When I met with the developer, I told him I was not in favor of the concept that was being presented, and I hope they would come back with substantial changes when it comes back in front of council. Otherwise, I would be a no on that as well. And I let them know that because they have to convince 6 other people, not me.
Excuse me, councilors. Do you mind if I address just a couple of items on the drainage question that I wanted to supplement the mayor's answer? So specifically, the drainage coming from this portion of the development, the Sugarleaf portion, would be accommodated underneath the parking lot at the agri-park. So the reason that this is saving a significant number of trees is that there would not be a detention basin within the agri-park, so there would be trees preserved within the park that would not otherwise be preserved. So that's the specific trade-off that we are able to accommodate by utilizing the TIF from this development to work in cooperation with the agri-park. So I just wanted to provide some additional context on that. I am not personally sure of the acreage of that retention area. I know that V3 is here. They may be able to provide some additional information on the technical side of that. But I do know that that's the primary goal, is to be able to hide that retention and provide more tree preservation area in the park itself.
I mean, whatever ends up happening here, has it been looked at having like more of a pond retention that's cheaper on the agri-park possibly? I know I'm not sure if it's finalized, the agri-park or whatnot, but it seems like there might be a potential to do that as well. No?
I have not done the retention study on the park, and I know Chris McConnell has been way more involved with the design group on the park itself. But I think the end result is going to be the same, that you're going to lose a lot of the tree preservation area if the pond or retention is provided.
Thank you, Council. For the record, Chris McConnell, Director of Parks and Recreation. To answer your question, Councilor Herron, the detention on the park is a challenge no matter how we do it. The park is mostly floodway, and doing detention in the floodway is, I don't want to tell you it's impossible, but it's incredibly challenging. So at some point in time or another, when we do detention on the park for the agri-park, we're going to either lose an acre and a half of more of trees, or we're going to have to pay to put underground detention under the parking lot in the park for the park. This is one really decent way to kill two birds with one stone. But in Janelle's point, in order to do that, it's my understanding that we have to have a commercial TIF, not a residential TIF, in order to capture the right dollars. So that's what I understand and what I know as far as detention is concerned.
Thank you.
Yep.
I think Councilor Dart and I had a question, and of course, we know cost is always an issue, but where the townhomes are, why can't we put retention there?
And custom homes around it. So what's fronting 171st Street is a beautiful retention pond, fountains, whatever you want. Put more custom homes around it and truly make this a custom home development. I think, John, what you're hearing here from the council is this proposal isn't going to fly. It's just not going to fly. A lot more work needs to be done on this to make this acceptable, not only to the council, but the residents that are in the area. And somebody, this was mentioned before, but with all this development that is going to potentially happen around here and no changes to 171st Street, we're not thinking long-term. We're just not thinking long-term. And we're gonna walk ourselves into a real problem with traffic on that street. So
we're here tonight. We're here tonight to listen. We're introducing the request this evening. I know that we'll continue to coordinate with the city, their consultant, and make sure that if David Weekley advances a plan, that it's a plan that the council can support.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments this evening? Again, this is an introduction. As members of the public know, there's a public meeting tomorrow evening at 6:30 at the library, as well as the APC public hearing on December 1st of 2025 as well, and then a couple other workshops anticipated as well. But thank you for the introduction this evening, and we will look forward to you probably tomorrow evening. So ordinance 2581, which is a Harmony PUD Amendment 3, Mixed Use District Area B.
Senior Planner with Community Development Department. Item before you this evening is the introduction of an amendment to the Harmony Planned Unit Development District, particularly Area D of Area B, west side of 146 in Ditch, right in the middle of this Harmony Mixed Use District. This site has been zoned for a grocery store, as such, we are bringing forth, or rather the applicant is bringing forth a PUD amendment to pivot. As proposed, the ordinance would allow for the development of, is different than a condo or a fee simple or anything. I'll let the experts get into that in their presentations here. Okay, well, just trust me on this. There we go. Garage for residents. You can see it's accessed over there on the west of the building, as well as some surface and covered parking, as well as a conformity to the included architectural elevation, site plan, and landscape plan. Some of these proposals are pretty conceptual. This one is not. Somebody here virtually. We are both available for questions should any arise. Public hearing is scheduled for December 1st.
Rarely am I called an expert, and I don't report to be one regarding this, but the use. So we've got two components here, and again, I apologize. For the record, John Dabashewitz with Nelson and Frank, as well as here. The matter before you this evening is an amendment to the Harmony PUD, specifically the commercial use. By way of general background, Real Estate Equities is an industry leader in village cooperatives with 46 locations across the that model in 2003. Village cooperative model and ownership model is somewhat common, where they started in the 1970s in Minnesota, which mostly across the Midwest. Cooperative owners enjoy maintenance-free living in a secure setting, including create and maintain the community. A board of directors is elected by the membership of the cooperative and managed within this format. As indicated by staff, we're located within the Harmony To our north as well, you can see right here, it doesn't show up on the site plan, so I'll mention it. This is existing multifamily to our north. Property is approximately 5 acres in size and is internal to the site without frontage on 100. 7 proposed homes. There are also 67 underground. This is all in an investment by them to produce the proposed building and improvements. Exterior amenities include patio areas as well as seating and community gardens. As I indicated, there's 67 underground spaces and 67 above ground. That's primarily surface parking, but that is a single story. It includes 12 parking garages, and those would be available to the residents within the proposed community. And it's noted that it includes below grade or underground parking of 67 spaces that we're asking for approval of. So when in fact it's zoned as multifamily, only have to come back in front of the council. We're not proposing that, but I want to provide assurance to the council and the public that discretionary approval. In conclusion, we had a neighborhood meeting last week. We had one person attend, that one person. With that, I'll conclude. I think we've done some outreach with most December 1st and a workshop meeting that would occur in the middle of January to work through those issues, if any.
I got a quick one. The one-story parking garage, that there's 12 of them, are those just used?
I've got imagery of that building that'll get attached to the ordinance as well. It wasn't developed at the time we filed. Separate golf cart parking planned for the north side of the site. It's not really clear.
I think the underground parking is, the heated underground parking is something we're housing here.
Our client's done 60 plus of these, and they, a lot of the things that you wouldn't otherwise see in a non-age restricted community, cooperative, and that cooperative language is specifically set up through HUD legislation to accommodate this specific use. Indiana, and they're looking to model other investment in the Indianapolis market off of this development here.
Proper infill development should be, and I think this is a great fit for that location. Yeah, the underground garage.
Is they're excited about moving there?
When I get to John's age.
This is the way I understand it. I'm no expert on co-ops, but the way I think it was explained to me was that pay a fixed monthly income, which kind of correlates with
privately, but the upfront investment is about 50% of the value of a typical home would be in the market. All multiple sizes. They've got from 1 bedroom and 1 bath up to 2 bedrooms, a den, and 2 baths. And you have a guaranteed position on the outside. It graduates 3% a year of your initial investment. So you know if you leave and
So when you sell, if you cover the sell side, so the second buyer, how's that work?
That's the existing owner. As they're selling shares in the beginning, you buy a share. Your share's valued at their unit type to another individual.
Doesn't the share price increase each year as well?
Yeah. It does, 3%.
Like 3%?
I'd like to see maybe some of that in the downtown area as well.
Yeah, and the parking garage, we've appliances and all those types of things. And on behalf of my future residents, please refer my fine people, my fine neighbors.
I hope to be very better.
Coming up on December 1st with a workshop anticipated of January 20th as well. Our next order of business.
Council, for the record, Dane Crabtree with the Community Development Department. The item before you for introduction this evening is a proposed properties to the north and east are zoned as part of the North Point PUD. South of the property is the 196th and East PUD, which is where the focus is for permitting a rehabilitation hospital as defined within the proposed ordinance on approximately half the acreage of. This item is scheduled for a public hearing at the December 1st Plan Commission meeting in Addison Bradford with Hall Render and.
Thank you, Dane. Councilors, appreciate your time this evening. I know it's later in the evening, so I'll try to be brief. Development or the intended development of a behavioral health hospital on the north side of the campus. It's the greens within the county. Although Hamilton County leads state and national outcomes of behavioral health providers, the national average provider to resident ratio is 340. State is 500. This development is intended to meet that specific need for the county. It's not really on a very similar timeline. Another behavioral health hospital within Marion County, so 5,000 square feet, and it will not be a permanent residential facility at Life Point facilities, which would manage the site, the placement type facility. If approved, we would break school as the intent right now would be for community to ground lease the site to a for-profit developer to then lease it back. Would be for community to develop a building that is consistent with the larger hospital. I guess I can't move on, but you can see it there. Would be.
Any questions or comments this evening? No, I was just looking up his cell phone number to give him a text. We've never met before. So, thank you. 2587, the additional appropriation for the 27th pay, presented by our clerk treasurer, Marla.
Marla,
can
are you
hear
there?
us?
Okay, this is an additional appropriation ordinance, which is needed to fund a 27th pay that actually occurs in 2026. It's a timing-driven requirement caused by our biweekly pay schedule. It's not really discretionary. It's simply the correct and lawful action to take to ensure that employees are paid properly. It's a standard timing issue that every city encounters periodically. The occurrence of a 27th payroll is predictable based on the calendar when it arises, but it only arises about every 11 years. The appropriation is simply required so that payroll can be issued correctly. The next occurrence of this is in 2037. The total amount needed in order to pay the employees is $1,499,000 roughly, and affects funds including the general fund, fire fund, MVH fund, and stormwater fund. Are there any additional questions?
Seeing no other questions, thank you, and we look forward to considering this at our next council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution 25, this is a resolution eligible for adoption this evening. Resolution 25-163, which is the council expressing support for and encouraging the passage of House Resolution 3095 and Senate 2961. This evening, Danielle Carey-Tolan.
Yes, before you, Danielle Carey-Tolan, to summarize your resolution in front of you for a consideration for House Bill 3095 and Senate Bill 2961. Just to give you an update, so the city currently is divided across 7 zip codes, shared with other municipalities as Carmel, Noblesville, and Zionsville. And this is a little fragmentation and that causes challenges for our residents, our businesses, and our city organization. The bill just is a direct impact for the USPS to assign Westfield a single unique zip code. And this is accommodating in this resolution before you tonight. I have background information. I've been sitting on this National Zip Code Coalition for the last 2 years. This bill actually has 67 other communities across the U.S. that have been working with Senator Banks federally and other Congress at the federal in D.C.
Congresswoman Boebert from the great state of Colorado.
Yes,
has the House.
exactly. So this will help us with, like I said, community identification. Many people think that they live in Carmel when they actually live here in Westfield and they go here. Also, insurance premiums are decided on this when they see a Carmel zip code or a Zionsville zip code. Sometimes when your insurance agency doesn't realize you live in Westfield, that can be a problem. Also, just mismatches with data across the city. We also have had major issues with our food and beverage tax going to other municipalities and not coming to us. So we consistently have to claw back those funds from the state to make sure that they come here to Westfield. If you have any additional questions, I'm happy to discuss them, but in summary, this is just to support us to move forward and show that our legislators that we support this decision.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, Councilor Deppner?
Caitlin, I know this is a resolution. Can we vote on this evening?
Yes.
This should have been done 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you can vote this evening.
Yeah, it's a resolution, so.
Yeah.
Danielle, do you know what's the commonality between 67 communities across the U.S.? Is it
It's very rare to have this many zip codes in a jurisdiction.
Okay.
Normally, it's 2. Most commonly, most cities divide it up north-south, east-west zip codes, but this is a rare occurrence to have this many. I mean, just even Carmel only has 3, but they're on that list as well, is to consolidate their zip code. And so is Noblesville and Zionsville.
Interesting.
With the food and beverage taxes, like obviously, I seem to kind of know how those work, but the air is not on the small businesses trying to collect and pay. Is it more with the state trying to give the money back to the city, or how? Like where is the air happening on that?
I can answer that. So the restaurant remits, and the State Department of Revenue then sends those based on the address. And the address says Carmel, for example, all along 146th Street and Greyhound Pass. We actually had to claw back 3+ years from actually after Carmel already received it, and it's pretty significant, very significant for us. So the error is not on the business owner whatsoever. The error is on the State Department of Revenue in terms of their distribution.
I'll just add that. Oh,
Go ahead, Victor. No, go ahead.
I'll just add, again, very supportive of this. I believe it was last year when Congresswoman Lauren Bobart first presented this to the House, and it did pass, but then there wasn't enough time to get it through the Senate and so forth. So very thankful to her, as well as to our Senator Jim Banks, of carrying this through the Senate, and hopefully we can get this done sooner than later. This is developed, just, again, living here my whole life, become one of my biggest pet peeves. I get comments all the time on my page and out and about and so forth, as the 146th Street businesses were mentioned. That is Westfield, even though it is Carmel addresses, and as was mentioned, we have 7 different zip codes, but it is all Westfield. So kind of transitioning to a question, if and when this does pass, what would encompass all of the one zip code? Would it just be the city, or would it be the entirety of the township?
It would be the entirety of the township.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yep.
And I'll just add, we've tried for years, I know Mayor Cook did, I have as well. The Postmaster General controls this, right? So, and their revenue source is based on how many boxes they deliver to. So you're asking a federal agency to defund themselves to consolidate this. So think about all the currents that all the residents in our city that don't get the Westfield current. Now, we've actually changed that. We went through and actually did accountability of every home that doesn't have a 46074 zip code, and we were able to get the current delivered, but it is an absolute pain in the you-know-what because of this, and the only way this is ever going to change is through the federal government passing a law like this. So this is a huge relief for the city, and how we have to deal with all these different zip codes. So.
And last thing I'll say is I grew up in Westfield on 146th Street in Carmel, 46032. And if I have to hear my father for any more years complain about this is going to be awesome.
Absolutely. Very good. This resolution is eligible for adoption this evening. We need a motion and a second.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 25-163.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilor McCarty, seconded by Councilor Huff. Seeing no other conversation, may we call the roll?
Victor McCarty.
Yes.
Patrick Tam.
Yes.
Kurt Waninger.
Yes.
John Dart.
Yes.
Joe Deppner.
Yes.
Noah Herron.
Yes.
Chad Huff.
Yes.
Come on, Chad.
Motion carries 7-0, and I want to say thank you too.
And we'll get that framed for Councilor Deppner's father
Thank you.
when it does happen.
I will.
You will. I would too. The next order of business is approval of the 2026 City Council meeting dates. They're provided in part of our agenda this evening. Do we actually need to vote on that?
I would, yes.
Okay.
If you would just take
We need a motion and a second.
Motion to approve the 2026 City Council meeting dates.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilor Dart, seconded by Councilor Waniger. Seeing no other conversation, may we call the roll?
Patrick Tam.
Yes.
Kurt Waninger.
Yes.
John Dart.
Yes.
Joe Deppner.
Yes.
Noah Herron.
Yes.
Chad Huff.
Yes.
Victor McCarty.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Do we have an APC update this evening?
Just real briefly on a consent agenda, we had Pet Supplies Plus on Spring Mill Road and the WWS main campus update, which is there between the current middle school, future middle school east, and then future Westfield Elementary School, current Westfield Intermediate School. And then our only workshop agenda item was Ordinance 2554, Schlegel Commerce Park. If any of y'all have any questions, as always, please let me know.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Waniger for the Finance Committee.
Yeah, today we held a Finance Committee meeting at the City Services Center. We heard from the Clerk Treasurer regarding payroll audit. We also heard about the Act for 2024 and 2025 Act for that'll be coming up. We discussed what we discussed earlier, 27th pay, and then a Gravity software update that will be coming probably mid-year next year that I know the Clerk Treasurer and the city is also excited about. That will really improve our financial reporting and be able to provide more clarity, not only for the citizens, but also for the council and the city as well as they do their business. Budget was approved recently, and we talked about how that process is going, getting that entered into our software by our various department heads. And then we reviewed the monthly reports of the revenue summary, fund report, appropriation report, and looked at the investments that the city has in regards to funds this year. So that's it.
Thank you. Any other comments this evening, Mayor?
Just a few things real quickly. First off, go Rocks. On, if you haven't heard, Saturday, playing again, second year in a row for a state championship. Our nemesis, Brownsburg, they don't like those folks. Hopefully we can beat those folks. We have a joint meeting scheduled in January with the school board and the council. I'm not sure in the recent past how often that's happened, but it's pretty rare. I highly recommend everybody attend. I had a executive session meeting with the school board going back a couple of weeks ago, and the information they shared with me was jaw-dropping. And let's just say that the narrative in our community right now around schools and overcrowdedness, it needs to be discussed in the public, because I'm here to tell you our schools are getting ready to face a challenge that I didn't know was coming. So we're going to have a joint meeting. I think it's fair for the council and for the school board, quite frankly, to get on the same sheet of music. And I think we need to do it in a public setting so the public is aware of exactly what's happening in our school district. And that will be held at the school auditorium, because we do expect a crowd larger than this room would accommodate. One question I have for the council: are we meeting the second meeting in December? Traditionally, we don't unless there's something pressing to vote on. Do you guys intend to have a meeting right after Christmas?
We can meet. Literally, it's held for really your department heads in case there's some issue. But we can also potentially cancel it, though, too.
Let's figure that out sooner rather than later, so if developers are trying to bring something, they know what left and right lateral limits of what we're working with. And other than that, happy Thanksgiving to all in the room, and appreciate everybody's hard work. I know it was a full calendar today, but appreciate the hard work.
Thank you, Mayor. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. We are adjourned.